across the room. That's fine. Alright. Hey Hacksters! Welcome to Thursday! It is Throwback Thursday, and I thought I would bring up an old blog post. We're also going to visit a new one from Cameron, and we're going to talk about recycling 3D printer filament. So recycling, composting, whatever you want, whatever you're interested in. For example, I've long been told that PLA is compostable, and that's part of why I'm attracted to it. But turns out that is a complex situation. So first up, why am I doing this? Because I'm building more robots, and I especially need to reconfigure Archimedes' head so I can fit a bigger Raspberry Pi inside, and that means that I need to reprint it. This takes a fair amount of filament, and while I've been saving all the support material and stuff from previous prints in hopes of recycling it in the future, I don't yet have a great process for doing that. So today I was kind of like trying to figure that out. In the past, I talked to Jason Reynolds, who is a professional 3D printer. This is from 2016, and he holds on to all of his filament because although a great recycling system didn't exist at the time, there is now a pretty good set of resources for this. And so he was waiting for it to become, you know, feasible to do that. Also, as a professional, he produces a lot of cast-off support material and probably a lot of failed prints as well, because no matter how good you are, you're always going to have failed prints. So let's dive into this a little bit. So first up, the biodegradability of PLA. I was like, it's made from corn, it says that it's compostable, that should be great. I should be able to do that. Turns out, it needs some pretty specific requirements in order to biodegrade. So, for example, it needs oxygen, it needs a temperature of 140 degrees or more, and a 2 to 3 cocktail of organic substrate, which I believe that it has, I'm not sure exactly what that means. I would guess that it means that you need like food and stuff in there with it, but I don't know. It says collectively these are absent in any scenario outside of industrial composting facilities. So PLA plastic will sit in that landfill right alongside ABS and other plastics for a very long time. I found a Quora thread on this besides this post on Filament that said basically, you know, you could, in theory, get this in a home composting setup if it was a very large one. However, most home composting setups don't get above 110 or 120 degrees, and so it wouldn't reach the necessary temperatures, and you'd also have to be like really conscious about making sure that all the needs were met, and it could just sit there for years, even if you have sort of the semi-optimal home setup. You definitely don't want to be tossing it out with your neighbor's banana peels and stuff if people are actually going to be using that compost on their gardens, because they'll find chunks of plastic and they'll be unhappy with you. So, composting PLA, not as easy. And as another site is going to tell us in a minute, it's not really, like, it sort of defeats the purpose if you ship your stuff to an industrial facility to compost it if you're a home printer, just because the carbon involved in that's produced in that process, if you're only shipping a little bit, then you're probably going to cause a bigger problem by doing that rather than figuring out some other solution. So what other solutions are there? Well, I'm glad you didn't ask. Cameron posted about this new 3D printer that can work directly with recycled plastic. Fantastic. Made of plastic. It's fantastic. So this 3D printer design created by Sam Smith can print directly with trash plastic. That is great. I'm a trash person and I have plenty of trash plastic. Smith has a lofty yet achievable goal of building a complete metabolizer machine for recycling just about anything at home. So this one in particular can recycle both polypropylene, number 5 if you're recycling, and HDPE, number 2. Together, those account for more than 50% of plastic waste by volume. You do need to separate your plastics first, and then you need to shred them. There's a whole article about this, actually, I think on the Precious Plastic site. Let's see. Yes, this is how it works. But we'll get there in a second. This is very exciting. So And then, okay, so after shredding the plastic, the chips are loaded into a hopper on the 3D printer. They're then forced down into an extruder, melted by a hot end, and then deposited on a build plate, just like how any other 3D printer would work. Directly from the plastic shreds to the 3D print. This is so cool. The design is completely open source, so you could build your own. Of course, the extruder is quite heavy, which means that you need a pretty beefy gantry in order to move the head around. But look at it! Look! You can print with just straight up waste! And I was trying to find out, I think it was Filament, in fact, who did this really cool program. Haha, look at it. It looks a little bit gooey. But if you're prototyping something large, especially something large where you don't need it to be like super pretty and nice, or precise, then this could be cool. Filament has a really cool thing. Where is it? I think it was them. They'll show up at events with a plastic extruder and 3D print on the spot. People bring their red Solo cups, like from any, frat party ever or whatever, or a festival, bring your drink cups to this machine and get a 3D printed ring made out of it, like instantly on the spot. Like, I love this type of really fascinating way to connect people with the idea of recycling and stuff. Oh, I can't find it. I'll find it later and put it in the links in the description, because that was such a cool and inspiring project. Pardon me. So Sam Smith, the creator of that one we just looked at, has been working on this concept of precious plastic, which is, I think, even last week when we talked to Crystal Prasad, I think she mentioned this. They do all kinds of different types of reuse of plastic. Look at all this plastic. They have a community, they've got tutorials, they've got all these kits and machines and techniques, open source machines that you can use to recycle plastic. Look at this. I would build these except that I don't have a lot of space, but look at, oh, so cool. They can be built all over the world. You've got a shredder machine that breaks down the plastic into little chips or flakes. You've got an extrusion machine that turns it into filament. You've got an injection machine to inject the plastic into a mold. So cool. You can use the molds, make the molds completely yourself by using CNC mills or lathes, or by simply welding them. And a compression machine, so you can slowly press things into a mold with a car jack. One thing you could do with this is, for example, make a big block of plastic and then mill it or lathe it into something else. So they have a bazaar online where you can, for example, make this like big Jenga game, you can get a hair comb, you can get a clock, but also other stuff like 3D printing filament. You can get samples of recycled 3D printing filament off of this website. It's on. It looks like the spools are made of particle board, so that's also recyclable. Fantastic! Yeah. This is from Robreeze or something on the 3D printing, on a precious plastic bazaar. And so, yeah, they also support creating your own sort of stations for this, plastic recycling workspaces. You find a space, you collect your raw material, wherever there's a lot of plastic waste. You have to sort it, as they mention. Different plastic types have to be separated as they have different melting temperatures and properties. It's not just about the color of the plastic or whatever. It's about the type of plastic. An efficient sorting system is crucial to avoid mixing plastic and ruining your process, because different plastics have different, yeah, we just said that, melting temperatures and properties. Then you shred it. Then you put it in pretty jars. They talk about labeling and storage. You can delve deeper into each of these if you hit the little learn more. Then you melt it down. And then you can create products. So here you've got, it shows using a mold, it shows extruding it directly onto a form, a shape. Looks like it could be a vase or something, and then you display and sell because they've even got this marketplace for it. It's so cool. It's a whole ecosystem. I love it. They do not have, I don't think you can send stuff to them for recycling, but you can check out their stuff on Precious Plastic, or Real Precious Plastic, on Instagram, and get inspired with all kinds of cool stuff like these beautiful tiles that people are making. Oh, wait, designed for settlers of Catan. Ha 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 ha, cool. Oh, that's like a comment on there. Anyway, clocks and things, all kinds of stuff. Made from beautiful, beautiful recycled plastics. Including these ones that they sell. Alright, we also have Refilament. So you can get filament directly from this company, Refilament, if you want some different types or whatever. So they have this one, which is from the insides, the plastic insides of refrigerators. You can print with that. HIPS filament. So cool. They say that it's excellent for gluing and painting, making it ideal for scale models. You've got recycled PET filament from blue bottles. They have addressed some questions in their FAQ, things like, where's your FAQ? Ah. Here we go. Yeah, about, for example, how many bottles does it take to make one spool of your PET filament? Since one plastic bottle weighs around 35 grams, and the bottle to filament ratio is close to 1:1, you don't lose a lot of material during the process. You'll lose a small percentage at the start of a new color or material, which makes sense. It's like, you know Airheads, the candy, and how they have that mystery flavor, and it turns out that that mystery flavor is just the flavor that's whatever the mix of two other flavors coming together when they start a new batch. You know, that's basically what happens with filament as well. You know, there's some transition period. But yeah, so our 750-gram spools contain roughly 22 bottles. They answer other questions like, is your material dishwasher safe? It depends on the material. And then, as I mentioned a minute ago, they say you can't right now send your discarded 3D prints for recycling. They've said the carbon footprint of sending small quantities of failed 3D prints outweighs the recycling wins. And they've also experienced problems with mixed plastics of the returned prints and things like that. But they're open to input. Fantastic. They also have a discount available for schools and universities, so a standard discount of 10%, which can go up to 25%. They are based in the Netherlands, I think. Yeah, and they use cardboard spools as well, because that is recycled. So cool. Oh yeah, and besides selling recycled filament, they also have rescued filament. So I'm eyeing this stuff. It's only 18 euros, which is not like unusual for filament, and it was being dumped. So they grabbed these spools of filament. They heat treated them to make sure that they were good. Checked them, dried them, checked again, and besides some small differences in weight and off-spec colors differences, this material is good to go. And I think that it would be a fantastic next material for Archimedes, so I'm going to go and get some of this. But, you know, they also have this sample that you can get from Precious Plastic. Could be another option. Archie's always sort of changing colors because of things like this. There's a few other options for extruders. So here's one called Felfill, the Evo filament extruder. Very compact, maybe good for a home environment. You just throw the stuff in the top there in the hopper and it comes out. Extrusion speed is from 1.15 meters per minute, which means that it could easily outstrip your 3D printer. You could be dumping stuff into the extruder at the same time that you're printing. I'm guessing. I just love that image in my head. It's an open hardware as well. Very awesome. And multiple materials, including PLA, ABS, HIPS, TPU, and more. Tolerances are something that most of the sites mention. This one is it on the refill FAQ? But here we go. What is the exact diameter of refilament? They're 2.85 millimeter diameter filament, which is commonly known as 3 millimeter, even though it's almost always 2.85 millimeters, has a maximum tolerance of 0.1 millimeter, and their 2 millimeter filament has a tolerance of 0.05 millimeters. So yeah. This one has a tolerance of 0.07 millimeters, and I'm guessing that it is 1.75 or 2 millimeter filament. Oh, wait, no. You can get 2 different ones just by changing the nozzle. I lied. Cool. Then we also have the ProtoCycler, which bills itself as one of the few ones that you can go straight from plastic shreds to filament. Which, wait, does it shred it itself? Actually, I think that might be the cool thing about this. Oh yeah, that's the cool thing about this one. So the ProtoCycler Plus is the only extruder on the market to feature an included grinder. So check it out. This has a crank on the side, and it's not like that Playdate game console where it's got a crank on the side to be wacky and fun. This is actually how you grind up your plastic. Isn't that cool? That's so cool. Yeah, so you can make new filament colors on the fly. Check it out. And yeah, you can create your own spools from virgin plastics. Presumably you'll also be able to, reuse your 3D printed waste. So cool. So I really kind of want one of these. It's not even that expensive. So before I was looking at the refill bot, or whatever they call it, Filabot. And you can buy that. There's like 3 separate machines that they have. The spooler, the air path, and the presumably the extruder. Yeah. And the whole setup ranges between like $5,000 and $10,000. So that's a lot. But it seems like a pretty good setup. And then you can also like get one of these guys for, so relatively $1,700 is not that bad. And if you got one for your hackerspace, I think this would be a great addition to a hackerspace. Because not only could you use it for your own prints, you could sell it, you could do stuff like that, you could just like set up shop in your local hackerspace, put it in a library or whatever, have someone who comes by once a week to like recycle everybody's filament. I think it'd be a really cool setup. There's another group called Nefilatech. As of April 12th, they had just launched doing 100% recycled plastic filament. Cool. Some nice colors there. Okay, and then I've also linked, to wrap up this story, I have also linked us to the 3D Printer Filament Recycler's Guide from all3dp.com. They seem to have a ton of interesting info about different options, including this one we just looked at, the ProtoCycler Plus. You can look at the making a DIY shredder or purchasing a ready-made shredder like the Shred It with Elite 3 in place of the E, the Filament Reclaimer, and they just give you a huge rundown of different options, which I think is fantastic. Precious plastic, yeah. Recycled filament. So all kinds of options that I didn't manage to get through all of them, and this is a great place to look for more. Now finally, that's all the like cool practical stuff I have for you, but this is something that I found on Hackster's Twitter and I have to share with you because it's just glorious. I don't have sound right now, but I implore you to go check out the Device Orchestra's video Finlandia Hymn on 4 electric toothbrushes. They put googly eyes on the toothbrushes. There's dramatic sweeping vistas and swooping shots, and it's just a beautiful song and an incredible video. It's very moving. Plus, it's even filmed in Finland, so check out, Finlandia Hymn on 4 electric toothbrushes by Device Orchestra. And don't go on our Twitter if you don't want to lose hours like I do every time I go on there. It's a problem. Okay, let's see if there's any questions before we wrap this up. As usual, I can only see your questions and comments on Facebook, unfortunately. Javon or Jay says, hello. Hello, Jay. Ned Noriega says, how toxic is this? Indoor safe? ? Now, that's a question that I have as well. Because on, for example, the refilament FAQ, someone asks about, is it safe to use recycled materials? And it says that all the materials we use are REACH and RoHS compliant, meaning that we know what the material is made of and where it comes from. And so, it's going to be the same considerations that you'd have with regular filament, right? Which is, for example, don't run it in a closed room a bunch because, you might get fumes. Also, nanoparticulates are an issue. You want to make sure you have good ventilation and don't fill your lungs with bad stuff. However, in terms of producing the filament, My assumption is that you would also want to run it in a well-ventilated environment and you would be fine. I have not seen any blaring warnings on any of these sites about, venting or don't do this around children, although I live in California, so everything causes cancer. But, my assumption is that these tutorials and such would mention the ideal place to set up your recycling facility. For example, up here it says the first step is to find the right place to create your workspace. We teach you how to do it in a container because it's easy to replicate, but it could be made anywhere depending on what's convenient for you. Here it shows that they just have this little house with a bunch of open windows. Here it's in a container that doesn't appear to have a ton of ventilation. So, and they've been doing this for a while. My assumption is that they have figured out a way to make it not be super toxic for whoever's doing their recycling, because that's kind of besides the point. But yeah, thanks for asking. Alfredo says, love from Mexico! Sweet, yeah. Love from California. Yeah. So check out how to make money with 3D printing if that's your jam. Filament has a great blog, including stuff about biodegradability of PLA. We have a new blog post from Cameron about this 3D printer that can work directly with recycled plastic from Sam Smith of Precious Plastic. Check them out on their website and on Instagram. Check out Refill, who sell refilament out of all kinds of cool stuff. There's the Fill filament extruder made for you. There is the ProtoCycler Plus, the only one that includes a grinder. You've got the Filament as well, a set of machines that are super heavy duty and more industrial, but you can, I think you can also build these yourself, but you can get them on their site already. It's this guy. You can buy from Nephilotech, presumably. And then check out this article from All3DP, the 3D printer filament recycler's guide. Thanks for watching. I hope that this has inspired you in some way. It certainly inspired me to be more conscious about my choices in terms of like what I can do. Because yeah, I had vague ideas of composting. No idea what to do. So I'm going to take this, and someday I'm going to turn it into more filament. In the meantime, I'm going to use recycled filament for my robots, and it's all going to be really happy. Have a great rest of your Throwback Thursday, and I'll see you tomorrow!